now turn to Alina Liao, who is the founder of Zenit Journals and is a expert in the field of journaling and therapy, and she's really trying to think about different ways that journaling can be a part of your self-care, and also as a part of becoming, when we know ourselves better, we are better allies, we are better collaborators. And I think what I really appreciate about Alina's work is that she's thinking through the journal, that the journal is a means, is a tool, not just for the self, but for community. So Alina, please, the stage is yours now.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Mike, for inviting me to be here and organizing this. Kenny, will I be able to share my screen?
Yep, every participant has screen sharing permission, so you're all set and ready to go.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so hi everyone. I'm really honored and grateful to be here. Like Jason said, my name's Alina. I'm founder of Zenit, and I come to this work with having developed a passion around making mental health and wellness more accessible, especially in communities of color. I've struggled with my own mental health challenges, depression, anxiety, and then on top of that, dealing with the stigma around it, the internalized shame, internalized sense that my feelings, my mental health doesn't matter. Having grown up in a family like Mimi and Lawrence were saying, we didn't have a vocabulary about it. It wasn't a thing. I didn't know what a counselor was for, and just talking about our feelings wasn't something that was modeled for me. But I'm really grateful that as an adult, I've been exposed to many more to mental health, and started my own journey in my own wellness. So with Zenit, I make customized journals that make it easier to journal, gain the benefits of it, take care of our wellness. And, I wanted to build a wellness tool that was built on the recognition that our wellness is a personal journey, and I was really feeling, Lawrence, what you're saying about we're the experts of our own lives, and there's a greater need for wellness tools that are built on that. And that's something I believe in. So I created Zenit to give us a tool that allows us to, customize our journal to our own wellness, so we can really own our wellness and healing journey, and to, create, kind of build a positive strengths-based narrative around our mental health. So we have a greater sense of pride, of ownership, and joy in the work we do for our wellness. So in our time together, I'm gonna spend most of our time doing a journaling workshop together. And so I would love if people are comfortable for everyone to, have their video on. So we have that kind of collective communal energy, even while we're just journaling quietly together. And then when people share, share what you're comfortable sharing. This is a safe space and no judgment zone. So, and as people have questions, please just jump in anytime in the chat or over voice. So I would love to start with an icebreaker. I'm really big on communal energy. So if everyone can in the chat type in, this is my first prompt, type in and share a food or a dish that makes you feel at home. And we can just see everyone's responses as it enters the chat. Yes, thanks for typing in the question, Kenny. Oh, now I'm getting hungry. I love this. Thank you everyone for responding. Curry, shrimp, chili, pork ribs. Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, street food. Love it. So as these roll in, oh yes. We have a great menu here. I think this is the making of a collective cookbook, Jason. So yeah, okay, this is great. As these continue to roll in, I'll start by talking about some of the benefits of journaling. So there's a lot of research, studies on the benefits of journaling. And you know, if I were to summarize it quickly, our journal, it's our safe space, our safe personal space to process our thoughts, feelings, experiences, and is really a tool to get to know ourselves better. I think of it as like peeling back the layers of our psyche, of our, you know, desires, our needs, what motivates us. And I feel like whenever I journal, even if I think I'm just writing about my day, it's like as I write, something comes up, right? And that is a really empowering feeling. And knowledge is power, right? So as we get to know ourselves better, we're better able to make changes, the changes we want to make in our lives, whether it's, you know, specific things around our mental health, or it's goals we have, or cultivating, you know, building healthy relationships, whatever it is we want. And so in terms of, so then just to share my own journal, like with a blank page, journaling for a long time was really hard for me to keep up. But when I started to use prompts that were specific to what I was going through and working on, it became much easier. So this is my journal where, like, you can see on the pages, I have these prompts. What am I feeling in my heart, body, and mind? Sorry if the lighting is not so great. What do I want in my heart? What's my wisest self telling me? My inner sage. And just as a personal example, this idea of journaling about what I want has been really transformative to me. For a lot of my life, I internalized the belief that what I want doesn't matter. You know, other people come first. And it got to a point where I saw how it was really hurting myself, affecting my relationships. And so I started to journal about it. And it helped me like build a new mental habit of actually recognizing what I want in the moment and being able to even like express it, advocate for myself. You know, that's another personal experience that reminded me of the power of personal journaling. I want to go through a few journaling tips because, you know, we all have busy lives. There's so much going on. And so I understand it's like, well, I want to journal. I know it'd be good for me, but like, when would I even do it? So some tips are, I'm a big proponent of using, you know, pen and paper. And there's science behind that, but like the act of physically writing, as long as we are able to do that, it can like slow us down. And again, that slowing down process, kind of like, you know, when we take slow breaths, it helps us better gain, you know, process our thoughts, deepen our understanding of what we're thinking and feeling. I recommend being intentional with your space. For me, like in a dream world, I would be in a beautiful garden outside journaling. I don't have access to that, but when I'm home, you know, I close my laptop, I turn over my phone so I'm not distracted. I like to face a window so I can see the outside. So I feel like this is my safe, kind of sacred self-care time. Another thing that's helped is attaching journaling to an existing habit. So I have to drink coffee every morning, have to. So, you know, I make my coffee and then I sit down and journal with my coffee, and that's made it easier to build a daily practice. And then going back to a point I made earlier, you know, wellness is personal. So when we are able to say, I want to journal for XYZ, it can make it easier. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. and pull up. Is this it? Yes. My first prompt for us. So this, again, let's just use the chat because it's just a word or phrase. But if you were to pause and think about it now, let's use the chat to type a word or phrase. I want to feel more blank in my day-to-day life. Trying to see if I can get back to the chat. Oh, chat. Here it is. Okay, I'm gonna add mine as well. Yes, confident, productive, empowered, rested. I'm always working for peace. Relaxed, consistent, calm. Carefree. Grounded. Thank you all for sharing this. Yeah, so patient. So when we think about how we want to feel day to day, and I say day to day because really like wellness isn't just I work myself till I'm going to collapse and then I take a vacation for a week, right? Like that's not sustainable. You know, I'm always thinking about how can we actually feel restored at the end of each day, beginning of each day, make it a day-to-day thing. So as we think about what we want to feel more of in our day-to-day life, you know, then it can give us an idea of like what I might journal about or reflect more on. So I'm going to move into our journaling. So how this is going to work is I have these 3 prompts on the screen. Can everyone see my screen? I just want to confirm that. Okay, good. Thank you. Again, all about choice. So for our first prompt, choose one of these 3 prompts. 1, I felt free when. 2, I felt affirmed and celebrated in my skin when. 3, I honored my voice when. And then I'm going to play 2 songs and we're going to journal together. And then we're going to come back and discuss afterwards. But there is a power in kind of collective, quiet journaling as a group. So choose one. And I would just say keep writing, right? If you feel like this isn't about answering a homework question. If you end up writing about something totally different, that's okay, right? These are prompts. It's a springboard. It's a spark of inspiration. But ultimately, you know, your heart and your mind, like they're going to write what they want to write. All right, so I'll stop talking now and let us write. All right, so we can wrap up the sentence you're on. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for now. All right, and as we come back to the room, I want to first invite a panelist or anyone, any attendee, if you want to just share how it was to journal, like which prompt you chose, how it was to journal about that prompt. If you want to share, are comfortable sharing what you wrote about or reading an excerpt, that's awesome. But again, like I only want people to share what they're comfortable sharing. So at the very least, what prompt you chose and what it was like to journal about it. Kenny, can you help if like attendees are trying to?
Yeah, absolutely. So if they share, they say they want to share, I can promote them to panelist, and they can share via audio if they would like.
Okay, awesome. I see, who is this? Neha is offering to share.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, we can.
Okay, so here's a little piece or the excerpt that I wrote. Let me just So I basically, I'll just summarize it because I did kind of write a lot. So basically, I picked the first prompt, and I said that I felt the most confident and powerful when I could literally wear what I want without the judgment of anybody else. So I was always tall as a kid. So I was like 5'2" when I was 11. So I was fairly tall. And I started kind of like looking older too, if that makes sense. So obviously I kind of got like a little, I don't know if sexualized is the right word, but you know how it's like, oh my god, you look older, like you don't look 11, you look really grown, things like that. So I've gotten a lot of that, and I still kind of do because of my structure. And that's not something I can help. And for 6 years, so only like last year, which is my senior year of high school, it actually took me a while to feel confident in my own skin. But then again, like I still wish that I wouldn't have to face a double standard. It's like, oh my god, because you have like this kind of feature, or like your chest looks like that, you shouldn't be wearing that, even though someone else is wearing the exact same thing. It's just a double standard, and I wish it would stop, and I wouldn't have to feel what I do.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Neha. Yeah, it's things like that, what we hear others say, it can really, we can carry that for a long time, and it becomes like, it's easy for us to start to say those things we hear other people say to ourselves. And it is a really freeing thing though, when we can find ways to be free of them, to let go, find spaces, people where we don't have to hear those things, where we can find spaces that celebrate us for who we are.
Yeah, I have really supportive friends, so that's a win for me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Neha.
No problem.
Yeah, does anyone else want to share which prompt you chose, what it was like to journal about it, or what you wrote about? We have Helen is volunteering.
Yep, I'm bringing her up as a panelist now.
Hi. So I wrote about the second prompt, and I think it was something like, when did you feel confident in your own skin or something? And so there's this program that I go to, and I help staff them and stuff. But the first time I went as a delegate. It's basically like a social justice camp. You're there for like 5 days, and at one point you get separated into groups of culture and basically race. And so it was me and all these other Asian people, and we just sat in this big circle and talked about our experiences in Asian American people. And there were people from all different parts of Asia, and it was just really comforting to know that these people, despite how different or similar we looked, we experienced some very similar things, and we also talked about our differences too. And I never really got that kind of space as an Asian American growing up in like a mostly white predominant town. And it was just really welcoming to know that there are a whole bunch of people just like me living the same kind of experiences that I do.
Nice. That's awesome. Thank you, Helen. Can I ask you, if you're willing,
Sure.
what it was like to just remember that experience and write about it?
It was really good. I do a lot of journaling myself, and the friends that I made from that program, I mean, they're probably some of like my closest friends now, and that whole entire like camp and program just fills me with warmth. So remembering it felt really good.
Yeah, thank you. So one thing that another thing we can do with journaling is like it's not like every time you write or you journal you have to have this big breakthrough. There is power in writing about positive experiences, and just having that space to savor them, feel those feelings again. Like at the as humans we tend to kind of have a bias to remember the negative experiences more, and so just taking that time to remember the really positive experiences can help us just with that balance day to day. Okay, so I'm gonna let us do one more prompt, journaling prompt together. So I'm gonna share my screen and pull up the next one. All right. Okay, so again, you have 3 options. 1, I feel pressure that I should, but in my heart, I truly care about. 2, if I wasn't worried about others, I'd say or do. And 3, what beliefs of mine are serving me now? What beliefs are no longer serving me? So those are your 3, and I'm gonna play 2 songs as we journal. All right, so let's wrap up our wherever we are and come back to the room. Oh, I'm gonna stop sharing. All right, so these prompts, I think they were a little more on the, I guess, the heavier side. So I will, I'll volunteer myself to share first. So I wrote about the prompt, I feel pressure that I should, but in my heart, I truly care about. I actually wrote about something that the student tarot card kind of sparked in me. There was that line, we gave you your past, you owe us your future. And like where I am, you know, I started my own business and I've been, you know, blessed to have good educational opportunities, gone to good schools. And I feel like this pressure that if I don't kind of fit the standard definition of what a startup founder, like that's success. I feel like, you know, it's like, am I wasting the education that I got? And not only that, that would mean I'm wasting the education that my parents allowed me to have and how hard they worked and the sacrifice they made. And it's something that kind of has been on my mind. And so I just wrote about that and talked about how, you know, I do want success, but like on my own terms, you know, I care about my work, but I don't want it to take over my whole life. I care about family. I care about my friends, my community, the things I do outside of work. So it's like, you know, how can I create that path for myself and honor my parents and what they gave me and the education I had, but in a way that doesn't create this weight on me. Does anyone else want to volunteer to share, panelists or attendees? Or even just what the like journaling was like, if you don't want to share the actual, what you actually wrote about. And if not, okay, we have, I see Jeannie is volunteering to share.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I think just the simple fact of taking the time to do this is a reminder of how important it is to just check in with yourself and check in with the different, just what you have going on in your life and in your mind and in your soul, and how important it is to make that time for yourself. Because I think we're all so busy, you know, whether it's school, whether it's working, whether it's taking care of families, if it's thinking of others, things in the outside world, you know, much of which we cannot control, but focusing on what we can. So I think I think it's just a very powerful, powerful feeling that I will take with me going forward. Really make it a priority to make time on a regular basis to check in with myself.
Thank you, Jeannie. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, and it's like, I've learned the value of checking in, not just how am I doing, but again, it's those things like, how am I feeling? What do I want? What do I need? All of that. So I have just a couple other things to go through. So first I want to just share my, share my screen, go back to share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to share my website to show kind of the menu of prompts. So if you, and how you can customize your journal. So, you know, you choose your cover, your page type, kind of the layout of where you want the journal prompts to go. And then I've set up goals here around, you know, different wellness dimensions. And for me, like having, you know, lived in a family and culture where like productivity and achievement is always comes first, I chose to be intentional to make it more about having a space to decompress and really process how you're doing. And based on what you choose here, you can see different prompts. So, you know, like this, anyone can go to this website and just even click on this to use this as a resource for prompts. Even if you don't buy a journal, this is here. You see some of the ones we went through, and it's set up to kind of have that balance of giving you that space to express both negative emotions, positive emotions, the whole spectrum. Sometimes, you know, like I know what it's like to live in a world you feel like you always have to show up as like ready, on top of your stuff and positive, and we're not always at 100%. We can't always be at 100%. So having that space for yourself to at least, you know, talk about what's on your mind, what painful or heavy feelings you might need to acknowledge. And as you do that with yourself, it can become easier to find other people, you know, to open up to. So this is like the menu, and I just encourage people to kind of read through and look at what prompts speak to them. So let me stop my sharing, go back to our group. My kind of closing activity that I like to do is a group affirmations activity. So affirmations are short sayings that we say to ourselves or others that help us feel good, right? Help us feel affirmed, grounded. A lot of the words that I saw in the chat about how we want to feel. And so like my affirmations that I have in my journal are: lead with my heart, flow, not force, remember joy. So what I want to do is invite us all to put in the chat an affirmation. So something that you might say to a good friend, or that you want a good friend to say to you. And what I want to do is compile them and actually like share them out to all the event attendees. So we have that collectively. So let's take a moment and whatever comes to mind, share it out. It could be in you, like saying you, blah, 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 or I, blah, 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 whichever way. I'll read some of these. You are appreciated. I am enough. You're doing great. You can slow down when you are patient with yourself. You're more patient with others. You can let go of things outside your control. Your story is important. Yes. You're doing so much better than you give yourself credit for. I love it. Thank you. Thank you all for sharing. Feel free to continue to share. I'm going to stay on so I can keep collecting affirmations as they come. Yeah, I hope this was helpful, calming, or helpful in some way to everyone here. I'm going to put my contact. Alina's in the chat so everyone can have it. And I know that, and I just want to say, like, as a closing kind of statement, that, you know, our wellness individually, our wellness collectively, our wellness matters. It's not a luxury. It's not a privilege. We all have the right to be healthy, to be well, to, you know, pursue the lives that we want to live. So, you know, we all deserve a safe space to process our feelings, to express ourselves. So thank you, Jason and Mike again for inviting me to be here. Thank you for everyone here attending, for participating. And I'll hand it back to Jason.
Alina, thank you so much. That was a really wonderful introduction to this journaling practice. And I think everyone, who did it, can realize the benefits and the feeling that you've done something for yourself in doing this. And for me, I chose the last in the last prompt. I chose I feel pressure to do this, but my heart is really in this other thing. And what I learned from myself in doing that was I ended up talking about what I value, and sometimes that's hard to describe. Or if someone asks you, what do you value? I kind of come up with generic things, but in that prompt, it forced me to really put what I do and my actions and my values into alignment. And I think when we can show ourselves that, we can act on those values more deliberately. And I think that's something that we want to kind of bring into our everyday life, because when we are shaped by the world, those values, they serve to connect us and help to keep us safe. So I want to kind of use this moment to kind of transition a little bit just on the theme of journaling. I have a copy of the workbook that I want to share with everyone, that will they'll be emailed out to all the attendees, all the people who've registered. And we'll be sharing this out publicly too. So this is forthcoming. But I did want to just take a moment to kind of walk through an element that is connected to Alina's conversation. So this is the cover here, just a mental wellness activity book for Asian Americans. Here you can see we include journals, poetry, literature, mental health practice, and coloring. And here's the student card. And then we have an introduction to the issue, the emergency card, which we talked about. And then here's this section. I'm just going to read this just because it kind of contains some of the the larger kind of historical dimensions of journaling that I think would bring Asian American studies into focus. I think it enriches that journaling experience. Can y'all still see the workbook page?
This page looks a little cut off, I think.
Okay, let me let's see. Does that work?
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Okay, cool. Sorry about that. So here, so this is a section that I wrote in the workbook that has some historical journals in it from the archives that I think will kind of demonstrate the historical significance, but then also when we know history and we can think about history, think about ourselves as historical actors. I think that enriches what we have to write about, and how we write about our own story. So they'll just read this here. So telling your story is an important part of weaving ourselves into the commons and finding your place. And the more we tell our stories in different ways, the closer we get to accounting for our agency and the ways our lives have been shaped by the world. Novelist Charles Yu suggests that we rely on conventional plot lines to tell our own stories, but those outlines don't often fit the diversity of Asian American lives or possibilities. And Patricia Shu argues that these conventions structure the kinds of lives and transformations we imagine for ourselves. And I think this part about the kind of speculative imagination, what do we see for a possible future for ourselves, we often, is shaped by the stories that are told around us. And, which, politically means that, if we recognize that this country was never meant for us, then we also have to, come to terms with the way that we want to tell our story, because we're here and this country is ours as well. And so, we don't have our own times to teach us, we have the past as well. So this is, that's how I enjoy teaching, historical journals, because they really show an individual wrestling with their times, and as a model for ourselves. And our stories are embedded in the unresolved works of today. So we always have work to do for ourselves, for others, and it's a part of a bigger story. And so thankfully we have the handwritten journals of earlier Asian Americans, which record an intimate view of the ways people made sense of the racialized violence of their own times. And so this first one, I'll just show it to you really quickly. This is a picture from a journal. The first page comes from 1942 diary of a young Japanese American from Los Angeles, Stanley Hayami. He was then incarcerated in the Heart Mountain concentration camp in Wyoming, and he reflected on the anniversary of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor the year before, as he sat in high school feeling alienated by his association with the Japanese government on the other side of the Pacific. So foregrounded by his depression and the incarcerated life inside the camp, he questions his own existence. So in this entry here, he's remembering that day after Pearl Harbor when he went to high school. And then later on, the day that he was actually journaling, he went to go get a checkup, and he, was making fun of himself there with this cartoon. But then the doctor looks at him and he's writes in the cartoon, maybe you're dead, which is, a kind of, he's reflecting on his own value and feeling the isolated, alienated, and that this is, a part of the racialization of Japanese Americans during World War II. This kind of self-hatred was bred into a national narrative of war. And the second set of pages, I'll just describe briefly, then I'll show you. The second set of pages appears in an anonymous journal from a Vietnamese boat refugee, written in the summer of 1979 as they fled Cao Mau in South Vietnam and Terengganu, Malaysia. And these pages recount the payments the family made to barter for food and safe passage while at sea. And in this, we learn that the price of bribes and rice and water demonstrated how vulnerable and uncertain their lives were. But if we read with, between the lines, this kind of account also serves to, document the sacrifices and the testament to their luck, determination, and perseverance. And just to show you those pages here. And so this is a journal of these people fleeing Vietnam and having to, give up wedding rings and, precious family items for their survival. So, I think, including these in the mental health workbook, is to show, to kind of put the put these kinds of entries in a historical context, and to think about, Asian American history as a therapeutic device that gives us meaning and that can connect us to the past. And when we do that, we also, learn to tell our story in new ways, ways that are shaped by Asian American history and not by the history of white settler colonialism. And so those, you know, generate all different kinds of possibilities and other kinds of futures too. So when we center these stories, we can also, you know, imagine others. And so I'll stop sharing this. But I kind of wanted to ask Alina about those journals too, and just, you know, as a reflection on, you know, the kind of work that you do with journaling. Did those examples strike you in any way?
It's really powerful to see those examples. It's like just seeing them as like this collapse of history of time. With the first example, I mean, really with all of them, thinking of the times we are in, you know, heightened xenophobia, racial, you know, tensions, and all of what we're going through, and just the importance of being able to own your story. Remember that, like, you know, you own your story. The world, you know, will continue to, like, other players are going to continue to create their own stories, and push them onto us. And, you know, that is like, that's hard, that's painful. And it's like, it's something like it chips away at you. And so, you know, it just reminds me of the importance for our own kind of sustainability in this world and this work, you know, social justice work, to, like, you know, write our own story. Remember, we get to own it. Like, you know, that we can't, like, you know, the saying, we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. It's part of that. Yeah, it's really powerful for those examples.
Yeah, there's another thing that I was reminded of when you were talking about one of the people who shared. I can't remember who right now, but you were asking them about what did it feel like to remember that experience. And I think there's some part of, you know, revisiting memories that is really interesting in the way that I will remember different parts of a memory, you know, when I come back to it, and or like different things will stand out that didn't feel important before, and then they kind of feel important in a different way. And, you know, I think there's real value in kind of revisiting this stuff for yourself, and that's you know, kind of like a way of indexing for yourself all the things that have led you where you are now. So just thank you for, you know, being so detailed in how you approach journaling. I think it's such a fantastic tool.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like also a nice, it's a place where you can just ramble and wander aimlessly, right? You don't have to, no one's reading or grading what you are journaling for yourself. And when I wrote about the prompt, I felt free when, and I wrote about, you know, a couple weekends ago, I got to go to a national park and I was doing this hike. I was like, oh, I felt free in nature hiking. But then I realized, like, I actually didn't feel as, like, fully free, because I realized I wanted to be, like, more rigorous, harder. And I was like, I wonder why I wanted that. And it got to me to a point of, you know, I think I just wanted to feel like I was accomplishing something. And maybe I just need to then take more time each day to celebrate my small wins, if that's like a need I have in me. So it was real, like, I had no idea I was going to end up there. But that is, you know, that's one of the beautiful things that can come out of this.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I want to I want to just thank you again for that, this wonderful session, and hopefully we'll have another opportunity to work together. So thank you. And